we are a lot more powerful than we've been led to believe, I think, is one of the things. Um, I think not being fear-based is really good for our vibration to raise, like I think figuring out how we actually can raise our vibration and something that is lower vibration than us cannot actually touch us or hurt us. So things that are like demons, anything that's a negative polarity, they're not high vibration, they're low vibration. We are higher. So just that alone, like all those years I was tormented when I could have cleared the house maybe the whole time, but nobody taught me, you know, the secret. The secret is to be higher vibration. And you can't be higher vibration if you're a negative polarity. You have to be positive. And I think that's, always love. Love is the highest. Gratitude is the highest. So I think that's an important thing to learn is is that we are powerful.
I'm here today with Danielle Oberosler, who is an artist, author, YouTube podcaster, and extreme paranormal survivor. I'm really excited to hear about your experiences today, Danielle. Thank you so much for coming on to share them with us.
Well, thank you for having me today. I enjoyed meeting you for the interview that I did with you, and now it's, tables are turned.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad that we connected and that we were able to get to know each other a little bit better. Because I think my audience is really going to enjoy what you have to say as well.
I bought a house in 2008, and I had seen spirits since I was a child. So it wasn't really that big of a deal. I think every single house I've ever lived in, I've seen spirits come and go and whatever. And I always kind of felt like, they're just in another dimension than us, and we're kind of never alone. But things could just pass through your house. It doesn't mean your house is necessarily haunted if you've got something there. I mean, it could be there and then gone. So when I bought this house, and it's my guest house that was really haunted, and I started having things happen, it wasn't really that big of a deal to me, and I didn't, it wasn't scary or anything. But the thing is that the beings didn't go, they just stayed. And over the years, it seemed like the activity got worse and worse the longer we lived here. So, what we thought initially was that it was kind of funny, like things getting moved, when you weren't looking. One time, the vacuum cleaner was moved and it tripped my friend. And we were like kind of impressed that a spirit could move something as heavy as a vacuum cleaner, you know? So it was kind of things like that. But then eventually, it started moving into more and more negative things where we were getting scratched, um, touched all the time. You know, there was like perverted ghosts, um, and we were getting bruised, and there was like sulfur smells, and so it just went from something that was kind of funny to something that was really not good and not funny at all. um and we still kind of lived with it for a long time. At some point though, I felt like my guest house wasn't really safe for anyone to live in anymore, and so I didn't have anyone living in there, and I left it empty for a while. But in December 2020, I had to go into the guest house to grab a space heater. And when I did that, I went over, I was actually staying with my mom because her husband, my stepdad, passed, and we didn't want her to be alone. So my daughter and I moved in over there. And when I went over there with the space heater, all the activity from my guest house went to my mom's across town. And now, we've got sulfur smells, scratches, bruising happening over there. My mom, she's Christian, she's reading the Bible, wide awake, and something would grab her crotch, like sexually inappropriate. conduct. And it was it was bad. My daughter was getting scratched at night and bruised, and you know, I think you can put up with a lot for yourself. But when you can't protect the people you love, like your daughter and your mom, that's when you start like it starts being too much. And we tried to do things to get rid of the activity by I've had so many people come try to cleanse my guest house. Um, Even a whole church once. They sent me medallions, like Catholic medallions, and had me hang them up around the house and do the holy water. And they like prayed together and tried to clear my house. Um, all sorts of Catholic priests and stuff went through and tried to clear it. Just never worked. Sage doesn't work. Nothing ever could work. It was decided that somebody had performed a satanic ritual in my guest house, and they ripped open a hole in the dimension to some lower place, and that's maybe why that sulfur smell and things were, coming into the house. Um, there was definitely non-human beings in there. I had paranormal investigators taking pictures and stuff and documenting, and we got some pictures of some stuff that were really not, really scary to look at. And they felt like when they were jumping on your body, it felt like an animal had claws. You could hear the claws on the ground. Um, it was so bad. So when that stuff went to my mom's house, we thought, since we could never clear my guest house, and it was just like, forget it, we're never going to clear that house. Um, we thought maybe we could do stuff over at my mom's. Like my friend made a candle with a spell to try to kick everything out of her house and get it back to my guest house. Um, I was told that there was a body buried under my house by the paranormal investigators, and that's why we couldn't clear, is because somebody was earthbound. And um, the ghosts that were in my house were like biker gang from maybe the 60s or 70s, and they had committed murders, and there was drug overdoses and all sorts of other things that happened. So they weren't nice people in there. um we tried everything. We tried, you know trying to convince them to go in the light, that their loved ones would wait for them and whatever. But the mediums that were coming over, they said that the ghosts were afraid of judgment and going into the light and possibly getting sent down to, a hell type situation. So we could not convince them to go. But anyways, we tried to do stuff to get them to leave my mom's house, and it made everything worse. We were burning this candle. It burned for 5 days, and for 5 days, like, glass was breaking, things were flying off the shelf, cracking, breaking, like the cabinets in the bathroom were slamming, all the doors would slam, like it just was worse. So I had heard that this woman, she cleared spaces that owned the crystal store in town, and I went down to the crystal store, and she said she would come the next day. But she goes, let me just clear you right now. And she took a selenite wand and went around me with this crystal, and she goes, you have this sludge on you from this nasty biker ghost. And I'm like, I know, you know I know. So she said, well, we weren't getting any sleep at night because, things were jumping on our bodies and scratching us and walking around the room, and just wouldn't leave us alone all night. I think I went about 6 weeks without being able to sleep at that point. And she said, well, why don't you take this candle? And she goes, and pour a line of salt on your stairs, and imagine a wall of light, and kind of trap all the ghosts upstairs so you guys can sleep downstairs. So I did that, and I burned that candle right there by that salt line, and imagine that wall. But she said, don't step over that line once you form it. And my mom and I had gone and we slept in the RV, and my daughter was now spending the night at other people's houses to get away from the activity, but it would still kind of go over to other houses too and attack those families. So anyways, this night we actually slept, my mom and I, we went like 6 weeks without sleeping. and we got a really great night's sleep. But I have a sister that went over that salt line at about 5 a.m. in the morning, and I was laying there in bed in the RV, and I woke up and I felt a pull from my forehead. It felt like if you could see what it looked like, it felt like my head was bending and stretching towards the house. And I was like, oh no, somebody stepped over the salt line. And immediately that biker ghost was like, I could feel he was like right there. And he was putting this image in my head of us, like me trying to drive my car, and him and I fighting over the controls of my car and him causing an accident. And I was thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. I got away with tricking him up once upstairs, but I won't get away with it twice. And now he's threatening to hurt me. Um, they had caused a couple of car accidents. The ghosts in my house had caused probably 3 car accidents that I know about. And so, anyways, at that point, I was kind of at my wit's end, and I was trying to hire somebody to try clearing the house again, and nobody would do it. They all said it was too big for them. And somebody finally said, "You need to hire a shaman." And I was like, I don't even know what that is, and I don't know how to find one. And they said, just Google, or, shamans near me. I don't know. And a friend of mine, she did that for me. She found a shaman on Yelp. And I called and I booked in with him, and he was going to come in 2 days, or no, he was going to have me come to his office in 2 days. He wasn't coming to the house. Um, but I booked the appointment. But when I was reading his Yelp reviews, it was saying about how he was great with like life consultations. Like there was nothing about like clearing a haunted house. So I actually booked another shaman to come, and he wasn't coming for like 3 weeks. So he said that he cleared houses, he cleared whole neighborhoods, and all this stuff. So I kept that first appointment with the first shaman, and I showed up to his office. I brought my daughter because I wasn't sure, like, is this stuff attached to one of us? Which one of us? Because it followed her to other houses, it followed me, like who who was it attached to, and so he had me lay on his table, and he was holding a pendulum over my chakras. And he said that it was me, I was leaking energy. And the energy that I was leaking from my root chakra was feeding all this stuff. But my daughter's chakras were really good. She wasn't leaking. So he fixed my chakra. It was silly. It was something about when I was a child, like, you know, it was the silliest thing. I wouldn't think it bothered me that much. But, anyways, that's what we dealt with, is some small little trauma that was pretty insignificant. And he goes, okay, your root chakra's not leaking anymore. So now this biker is getting really weak, and I'm going to put him in the light. And I was like, before you do, I want to know what's his name. And it was Tim, and he said that he knew me in my life at some point, and I don't know who he is at all. And I said, what gang is he in? Because my neighborhood has different biker gangs in it, and he said he's Satan's slave. And I was like, okay, I had a feeling. So he says he pushes this biker in the light. And I said, what about his demons? Because I know he had some, they were, you know, jumping on me, and I could hear their claws on the floor and everything. And he said, yeah, he had 2 demons with him, and they're in the light with him being processed. And I just thought it was not going to work. I honestly didn't believe that any of it. I didn't believe it. And I drove home thinking, when I get home, everything's still going to be the same as it was. But it was better, actually. Like a big chunk of the activity was gone, but there was still little something. There was still something. So, so I kept the appointment with the second shaman, And when he came, and he worked with two other people remotely, and they put crystals everywhere and saged, and he did my house, my guest house, and my mom's house, cleaned it. What they were saying was that the ghost had somehow overlapped my property with my mom's house. And I think if you can understand that time and space is a 3D thing, that somehow on their dimension they can manipulate that kind of stuff. I don't know. That's why we couldn't kick them out, my mom's, is because they overlapped it. And they really had no intention of leaving. But anyway, the second shaman came and he did the crystals all over my house, guest house, my mom's house. And the vibration of the house felt much higher. But what he did was all the little things that were left, like the little other demons and shadow people and whatnot, they just jumped to the neighbor's house. And so my neighbors were contacting me like, hey, your junk is in my house now. But all the shamans looked at my daughter and they were like, she's tapped in. She could be trained and all this stuff. And so the first shaman that I saw, he taught my daughter how to clear a space and how to throw things in the light and all that, saying it would be really natural for her. It's very easy for her. So she actually went to the neighbor's house and she was the one pushing and getting rid of and clearing the rest of the things that were there that were not as big as that one major one that we got rid of initially. Um, Soon after that, we moved back to my house here, which I'm still in. And the guest house, you know, there was, I think there was one more thing here that we heard growling one night, one morning when we woke up. Like my daughter and I were just moved in and we hadn't set up all our furniture and we were sleeping on a mattress in the living room of this house. And we woke up and something was growling at us. And we were like under the blankets. And I was like, what is that? And she's like, dude, I don't even know. And I was like, well, get rid of it. And so she got rid of it. But there was still this portal open, which, that shaman that came here, he said he closed it. It was not closed. And so my daughter tried closing it and she didn't close it the first time. But, um, the one that was teaching her, the first shaman, which I still see, his name is Michael Shaman. I still see him. He told us if we burned salt in the house, it would absorb negative energy, kind of like a vacuum. And what it does is it really takes a lot of the power away from something. And then, so we did that. We burned salt in that house. And then my daughter, she closed it. She actually closed the portal. And I had Michael Shaman look, and he said she closed it in one dimension. It's still open in two more. So tell her to close it in all the dimensions. And so she did. And it's kind of a work we have to keep at. We have to keep that vibration high because of the things that have happened in that house and the way that that portal was ripped open through the dimensions. And it's like a thin spot, you know what I mean? The veil. So it's something we have to work to continue to raise the vibration of this property and keep it high, so that things don't come back.
Is there something in your past, maybe, or do you have experiences in your past where you've had interactions with paranormal beings?
Um, Before this, yeah, like I've always seen um spirits. Like I'll wake up and they'll be around my bed a lot, humans. But when I was a kid, I believe they were shadow beings in my room, and they kind of mess with me a lot. Making me scared in the closet, like the typical kid thing, but they would make shapes on my wall, like shadows. And one time they did like a skull in shadow on my wall, but they actually made the eyes glow red. And I remember like I would look at the plants outside my window and try to figure out how those leaves are making that shadow on my wall. But then when it glowed red and I was looking, going, is there a car tail light? Like what is happening? But I was just getting messed with probably my whole life.
So do you feel like the beings are kind of like maybe targeting you because you're more open to their presence and their interactions? And maybe are you a medium?
So, I mean, it wasn't something I was trying to do, you know what I mean, for like all my life. I didn't know why there would always be spirits around my bed. Now I get it. Now in hindsight, what I understand is that, when you're higher vibration, your light energy might glow brightly. And so my daughter and I both have had to learn that if we go in public, not only do you bubble up like everybody else imagines a white, golden white bubble of light around them, right? For protection, we actually have to we have to imagine invisible cloaks around us, or we're going to bring home something. So every night, before bed, it's one of the things I do is I bubble up my house with golden white light, and a wall around my property up above and below. But I throw an invisibility cloak over my property and I imagine that my house is invisible. Like if you looked at my house, you would just see dirt, you know? And that's another layer of protection that we have to do, um, because we attract too much. But I know now, that I also am able to move things into the light. And so, as I've raised my vibration, I've raised my energy, my solar plexus started glowing really bright. And when I would wake up, or I'd be in bed and all these spirits would fill up in my room, like 50 people. And they started using my solar plexus as a portal to go to the light. So I've had to like learn how to open portal outside so they can use that and not come in my room because my dog sees them and he'll growl all night and I won't get any sleep.
Wow, that's incredible. So you're helping 50 people a day, helping them
Oh my
cross
God.
over.
It's a lot more than 50 because that portal that I built. So what Michael Shaman said was when I learned how to do it and open a portal that it's like the portal resonates with my signature. So they recognize it will get them to the light when they find it. Um, So I check with my pendulum to see how many are going through sometimes. And it started growing exponentially. Like it was about 50 a night, and then it started being 200 a night, and then it's in the thousands. And it's so every night before bed, that's another thing I do is I re-brighten that portal and I stretch it lower dimension, higher dimension, because there's people that are stuck on a lower astral dimension or whatever. Their vibration's too low to be even on our earth plane. They're below. So I try to stretch the portal down to them so that they've got this bright shining light that they can find.
You've got some other gifts that you use to help people as well. You can see spirit guides, is that correct?
Yeah, so yes, like I said, I've been seeing Michael Shaman for 3 years. And, every time I go, I learn how to raise my vibration. I didn't know how to meditate. I kept asking, like, how do you meditate? How do you meditate? How do you meditate? And, my daughter would just roll her eyes at me and be like, oh my God, you just like sit there quietly, like. So I had to start with like binaural beats. I was listening to Hemi Sync, the Gateway Experience with the headsets. I'll wear like blindfold. And at first, I started seeing things like just color, you know. I'd always see kind of like a bluey purple color. And then I started practicing things like, let me see my daughter at school. and I would see something, and then I'd talk to her about it after school and confirm that this was happening at school. So I started doing that where when I see this color, which I believe is my own aura color, that I once I see my aura, I just practice looking somewhere else. And I can see a portal sort of form right in front of me when I meditate. And then wherever I want to go, I go. But so I go out of body, direct method. That's what it's called when you're awake and you meditate or you just go out. Um, so what I'll do is people do hire me to draw their spirit guides, and I'll meditate and I'll create a circle of white light and invite in the person and their spirit team and my spirit team to help me connect to theirs. And it's pretty cool. Like I like to at least see three of their guides, and then I can ask questions like, if the guide is sometimes it's a relative or even, from a past life, if it's a human, but a lot of times they are not human. But I can ask if it's a loved one of theirs from another timeline, or if it's an aspect of themselves, because sometimes people are their own spirit guides from another timeline. Um, and I'll see things like if they've got past life traumas that they need to deal with right now. I'll see that it's affecting their health, like some traumatic death. You know, one man I saw cut his own throat. He was Nero. I think he was Nero, the Roman emperor. He cut his own throat so he wouldn't be like killed or something. And it was affecting his throat chakra. And they always get back to me with, I am having throat problems. I am, and I'm like, go to an energy healer and get that chakra cleared. Or I'll see that they have inner child work they need to do. Sometimes I see that they're stuck in a reincarnation loop, um, because of certain traumatic death. I've really seen some cool stuff, and I always see their spirit animal. So I just bought a book on spirit animals because I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, why do I always see the spirit animals?
So, what is a spirit animal?
Well, the book I have, it sort of compiles from different cultures. It's almost like an observation about that animal and its quality, and then it reflects on you. Like my mom's was a capybara, if I said that right. And when you looked up that in the spirit animal book, it was saying that they're really a communal animal. They live in these packs of like 100 of them, and that family is so important, and they will defend a family member, and you know what I mean? And it like really did resonate with my mom and how she is about family and how important it is for her. And she's literally said, I would kill somebody if they mess with my grandchildren. Like she would defend a relative. So to me, it was funny that it's like the characteristics that they notice of that animal is kind of like the person has, you know?
Yeah, that's really interesting. What is your spirit animal?
Mine is a seahorse, one of them. And when I looked that up, and I didn't read the full page yet, but when I did look that up, it was to help, seahorses help sailors who drowned. And I did meditate one time and see, I was watching an old map, and it was like a ship with dotting lines around a map, like the ship was sailing around. And I'm like, why am I seeing this? And then the next thing I saw was this view from underwater. And like I was seeing the sun through the water. And I'm like, oh, I think I went down with a ship. And I remember in the meditation, it was so pretty. Like the sun and the clouds you could see through the water was so pretty. So when I went to see Michael Shaman, I go, hey, I have a drowning that I need to deal with, a past life trauma. And he said that my seahorse was there, and I immediately popped out of body. I did not stay in my body and suffer the drowning. And that's why, and it made sense because I wasn't bothered about, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow, it's so pretty, and like that. But so yeah, my seahorse was there to help me.
You said that there's some spirit guides that they're not human. What are they?
I see a lot of fairies, gnomes, for spirit guides, lots of fairies, mermaids. Seen a few. One was really cool. I was looking at this woman. Her main guide was a mermaid, and I saw that she was a mermaid with the mermaid. And while I'm looking at them, I saw Noah's Ark float by over them, and I'm like, whoa. Like they were there when Noah's Ark floated by. That's crazy. And then I saw that this woman, she was Eve in a past life. And I saw her with the snake around her shoulders. And they had this loving relationship. And I was like, isn't the snake supposed to be the devil? Or, you know what I mean? Like in the story. And and I got no, like no, that's not. And they have this loving relationship, and that snake is her spirit animal, but it's soul bonded animal to her. It's not just a characteristic, they're soul bonded. I also got that she was a rock star and she was Janis Joplin in another life. And it kind of makes sense if you think about Janis Joplin's voice and how mermaids have that siren song, right? And Janis Joplin had a voice, you could feel it, in your soul. So I don't know. I felt like that made sense to me.
It's interesting that you see mermaids as spirit guides because I've had quite a few, well, I've heard of quite a few and even had a few guests that have experienced a water world in their near death experience where they are like a mermaid like creature when they die.
I and I think that so there are mermaids that, look like beautiful people. And then there's ones that, and I don't know, like I don't know if they're on another planet or if they're just another dimension. I don't know, but there are ones that are water planet beings that are not human looking too. Like I see so many. I see a lot of ETs when I do people's spirit guide artwork. Lots of star seeds right now are, here, I'm sure, So I see a lot of beings.
Do you have some artwork that you can share with us of these spirit guides?
This is a fairy. She's a green fairy. And it was funny because I was out to dinner with a friend of mine, and she said she was told that she had a green fairy for a spirit guide. And then, not that night, but the next night when I went to bed, I closed my eyes and she started popping in my head. Like I could see her clear as day. Um, and I remember I was kind of making mental notes about her face because I was making notes that the bone structure wasn't the same as ours. The nose bridge is a little wider and things like that. And she seemed like she changed how she looked to me right then. And she started looking more like an anime cartoon. But when she was this anime cartoon, she started doing this thing like where her hair was blowing in the wind, and she was like making sure I got all her angles. So I started drawing her to look anime, but when my daughter saw my drawing, she said, "What are you doing? That's not what she looks like." And she told my daughter's like, her face looks almost like the Avatar movie, like structure, but green skinned. Because I saw the colors still. It was green with white hair. And my daughter told me she wears rose petals tied around her body, like a little dress. So I think that she thought because I was taking mental notes so I could draw her, that I was judging her. You know what I mean? So she shifted how she looked to hide from me a little bit. Um, this one is my friend's spirit guide. Um, my friend does hair and makeup, so I thought this was great because, my friend actually was a mermaid with this one, but my friend is more into purples and blues, and her mermaid was more purple and blue. And I thought that was funny because she's definitely not a pink person. And as it turns out, this is actually me in another life. So my mermaid aspect is my friend's spirit guide. and we were sisters. So it's funny because, we've been very good friends for so long. This one is the uh is the one I was talking about with the arc going by overhead. And so I kind of put this silhouette, like a silhouette of another mermaid, to indicate that the woman was, in the life with her as a, who knows, as a loved one, but that they were there during when the ark was floating by. They were underneath. Um, so I failed to mention that Charles Manson's ghost was here at my house not that long ago after he passed, and that the Manson family were the ones that lived in my guest house and did the satanic ritual and opened the portal. And his ghost was here for about a month with us.
Oh my, that's terrifying.
Everyone said that, and they were like, push him in the light, push him in the light. And, we're more of the mindset that if somebody's not bothering us, we don't, you know, we leave them be. And, and we understand that we live and we're never kind of alone, and that there's just layers of, dimensions on top of each other. He was hanging around us, and he wasn't bothering us, but he thought he was really funny. And he kept opening and closing our pocket door, turning on his own music, by the way. He would turn on the stereo at the top level and play his own music in the middle of the night. He actually blew the speaker on my TV because the TV would get turned on at top volume. So now I can't even use my speaker on my TV. I have to use a sound bar. But he ended up he didn't want anyone to know he was here. And I did draw him because this is how I saw him one night, like kind of floating around in my room. And he looked about 30 years old, about when he was arrested, where his hair was a little bit longer, and before he had a forehead tattoo. So when I first saw him, I didn't even know who it was. I asked my daughter, I'm like, who is in our house? And she said, oh, that his name is Charlie. And I'm like, oh no, like because he did, Spawn Ranch is like a mile from my house, and Spawn Ranch is where the family lived, But apparently, what he told my daughter is that they lived in my guest house before they moved to Spawn Ranch. So that happened.
Wow, that is incredible history to have that happen in your own backyard.
Yeah, and to happen in my house. Well, the thing is he seemed to be hanging around trying to learn, from us. Like he didn't go in the light. Well, so when I went to see Michael Shaman one time and Manson was hanging around, and I said, "Oh, I've had this famous ghost around." Um, which Manson and I did have one altercation because I did tell my friends that he was here, and then he went into my dream and he strangled me one night, and it felt like more real than a dream. Like on the astral, he was using his astral arms, his energy arms, and you know what I mean. Anyways, and then I told him, I'm like, you touch me again, and you're going in the light. But then I went to the shaman appointment, and Michael Shaman saw him and threw him in the light, and I said, I go, hey, Michael, don't do that. What he wasn't ready to go. And he goes, well, I can pull him back if you want. And I'm like, no. I was like, well, is he happy? But Charlie didn't stay in the light. He came right back, and he didn't do his life review. He didn't like, merge with his higher self. He came back out of the light without being processed because he wanted to learn more about karma, and he was trying to do things to help his karma, which, come on, there's going to be, he'd have to do a lot. So he actually helped with some energy circles I was in, even one for my daughter. He joined in to try to help her. So I think he was trying to rack up some good points and learn about karma, and, you know, and even I have had many conversations about this particular topic with Michael Shaman, because I was under the understanding that if you were somebody who, for example, like him, had somebody murdered, that you might have to incarnate and now be a victim of murder, right? To balance the karma. But Michael explains it more like a scale of bad and good. So if you do more good than bad, it's not like a exact tit for tat as far as he said. So Charlie did end up going in the light on his own. So I just wanted to say that because um, I think people think that once they go in the light, they can't come back out. But I've actually popped into the light and seen my stepdad, and my stepdad, he passed, but he comes out and visits us from the light, you know? So
So
it's not.
why didn't he want to go into the light in the first place if it's a place of peace and love? Did he fear punishment?
I think, yeah, I think, and that's the same with the bikers that were here, is they were afraid to go in the light and they thought like there was going to be a judgment. Like, the way we're taught is there's a gate or something, and that you come up to the gate and either you're let in or you're parted down to the lower whatever, and honestly, from what I seem to witness for myself is that we judge ourselves. You know what I mean? And if people think that they belong in hell, they put themselves in a lower astral and they don't realize they can leave whenever they want?
So even
And
people like Charles Manson, they can go into the light and be at peace. There
I,
is no eternal punishment for them. Really, the punishment would be them lingering around here, right?
well, I mean, yeah. Well, if you stay too long on the earth plane because earth is so dense, you will eventually run out of energy unless you're taking it from people that are alive, or I don't know how else they get energy, like from, batteries and electronics and things like that. I don't know how they get energy, but we eat food and our energy body is connected to our physical body, and we're replenishing our energy in this dense dimension. These people that what I see from with my third eye, when they hang around on the earth plane too much, like some people are like they'll see something that looks ugly and think it's a demon, but sometimes it's a person that has been around on the earth plane too long and they start morphing and they don't look good. They don't look healthy. They don't look well. And at some point, when they run out of energy, that energy will get absorbed into earth. So if I move them into the light before that happens, then they can reintegrate into with um their higher self. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know if they if they just leave Earth, you know what I mean, and get out of this density, then maybe you could be eternally, somewhere in the void or somewhere, where it's not dense. Here on Earth, if you think you're going to stay here for, I mean, think about it. How many ghosts have you heard of that look like a caveman? You know what I mean? Like, I think once the people who know and loved you are gone, then nobody's giving you that energy anymore, feeding energy to you, then you might go. Because we don't see ghosts that are around like forever. I mean, I know there was like Marie Antoinette was, haunting some castle in France and that, but people are going there and they're feeding energy to that, like, you know what I mean? By
Hmm.
trying to experience the haunting of that, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I mean, my mom was Marie Antoinette, and so we actually integrated that with my mom so that that place is not haunted anymore with Marie Antoinette. Because when I heard that the castle was haunted by Marie Antoinette, I'm like, uh-oh, my mom has a missing fragment. Anyway, so lately, what I've been seeing, I did, so this was somebody's spirit guide um, that I recently looked at. And at first, when I saw him with the black wings and the dark cloak, I was like, oh my God, what is that? An angel of death or what? But it turns out to be Uriel, one of the archangels. And he's very interesting because he is actually made of dark and light energy together. And anyway, he's been around. He likes to look mysterious. The other one that I've seen is Metatron. So he's something else. I actually he integrated with me and so did Raphael, some energy with me, and it's been a lot for me to process and integrate. But um, but they are working with me. So all these angels are working with me now. And Raphael, he's the green sacred flame. I didn't realize it because at first, who was coming around me was Merlin, but uh, Merlin actually wanted to work with me. I agreed. He integrated with me. And then I had a dream that I was like looking in the mirror and it wasn't my face and it wasn't Merlin's face, but it was his. And I'm like, wait a minute, who's Merlin? Merlin is Raphael.
Oh, okay.
Like Raphael probably had a fragment that incarnated and was Merlin, you know?
Wow, those are beautiful. You are a very talented artist, and the stories behind them, even more incredible. That's amazing. I didn't know about the Charles Manson.
I know I forgot to tell you, and I kind of forget about it actually because he came around after our house was clear. You know what I mean? Like the portal was closed, end of story. But no, Manson dies in prison. Ghost comes here, hangs out with us, strangles me, and I had to add him in my book as an afterword.
Wow. So now he's gone. Are you free now from ghosts, or is there still something going on there?
Um, so what I've been doing with these angels is we've been clearing lower astral, helping transition people that are stuck and lost and whatever. The thing is, and what I'm hearing from other psychics is that because the earth is shifting from the third to the fifth, that beings beings and spirits are not able to shift and keep up. And so they're panicking, I would say. I've even had to help a bunch of reptilians. I had to clear a bit of hollow earth. They were coming into my room and like messing with me so that I would throw them in the light, and every night I would get more, and I'm like, what is happening? Am I in some war? Am I in a war with reptilians or what? And then and so that's what happened is they were messing with me, so I would throw them, but every night more were coming, and then one night there was 50 of them in my room, and I'm like, this is more than I could do. And that's when, I Merlin came around and started helping me, and him and I were going down into Hollow Earth and moving them on. It's not all reptilians, it was a kind that wasn't shifting, you know what I mean?
So, what does this all tell us about who we are as human beings?
My goodness, we are a lot more powerful than we've been led to believe, I think, is one of the things. Um, I think not being fear-based is really good for our vibration to raise, like I think figuring out how we actually can raise our vibration, and something that is lower vibration than us cannot actually touch us or hurt us. So things that are like demons, anything that's a negative polarity, they're not high vibration, they're low vibration. We are higher. So just that alone, like all those years I was tormented. When I could have cleared the house maybe the whole time, but nobody taught me, you know, the secret. The secret is to be higher vibration. And you can't be higher vibration if you're a negative polarity. You have to be positive. And I think that's, always love. Love is the highest. Gratitude is the highest. So I think that's an important thing to learn is is that we are powerful.
So, by maybe immersing ourselves in love and gratitude, waking up and being excited to start our day and looking forward to all the wonderful things that are going to happen, and being grateful for the bed that we sleep on and the roof over our head, those kinds of things, those are going to raise our vibrations. So, we're going to become, I guess, more protected from the negative energies.
Yeah, I do think so because, and I'll tell you, I had to reach a level. So while I was ascending, because I've ascended to the fifth now, But when I was raising up and hitting about the fourth, I was getting on the radar of things that were messing with me to try to keep me from raising. And there is a thing where you have to sort of punch through a layer. But once you get above that, like if you stay in the third, nobody cares, because you're not making any waves. But once you start ascending, I don't know, we're gonna win. That's all there is to it. I think we're gonna shift. We're gonna be higher vibration, and nothing's going to be able to keep us down,
What's
you know.
this layer that you have to punch through? Tell me more
I
about
think it's
that.
the fourth. I think it's about the fourth.
Yeah,
Because honestly, if the earth shifts to the fifth, and like I said, if you can't keep up with the vibration, then you're not going to make it here on earth. So if, for example, reptilians might be the fourth, but earth is raising, they don't want it to raise because this is going to be another planet they can't be on unless they raise. Well, to raise, you have to be positive polarity. So it'll be interesting. So I'm sure that's what the whole battle is about, is they don't want to lose another planet they can live on. That's my ideas about it. But
that's very interesting. I never thought of it in that way.
yeah, so I think, we have to match the planet or we're not going to be on it. Um, I mean, I don't know how long the shift is going to take. Some people guess 20, 40, 60 years. You know what I mean? That could be a whole life. I could have stayed the third the whole time, but, and been fine. But, that's what's happening now. I think a lot of sensitive people are feeling it. But yeah, so I think it's all about vibration, raising our vibration. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have Googled so many times, like, how do I raise my vibration? Putting music on that you like can, it cheers you up, it makes your space feel good. You know what I mean? Like you can feel the difference. If I'm with friends and I'm ranting about another friend and then I feel, that's lower vibration. Like you can't talk about somebody negatively, or whatever. I think we can all feel what raises and what lowers your vibration. Being good to yourself, loving your fellow humans, animals, everybody, the planet.
Once we raise our vibration, do we kind of stay there, or is this something we continuously work on?
I don't have the answer about that because I think the earth is just shifting to the fifth. So, and I think that, we've got all these other timelines that we're living, and I think it's more simultaneously than it is linear. So we're already higher vibration somewhere. You know what I mean? Like we're already 12th dimension somewhere. So,
That's very comforting to think of. And so, what do you think happens when we die, when we leave this realm or this body stops working? What happens then?
well, I think what people say happens is that what they expect is what they're met with. So if you expect you have a certain religious belief, then something's looks like that for you, I think. But as for me, I of course I want to know about all my lives. I want to, what is it, the Akashic records where you can access everything. I want to know like how I did this time. You know what I mean? Like, how did I do? You know, I don't know. I want to know. So I think I'll go to the light.
Kind of like a scorecard, like you
Yeah.
want to check your score.
Yeah. And Michael Shaman says basically because we're here for the ascension of the planet, and a lot of us here are doing that, and we're working on raising the vibration just by being here, just by, you know, if we raise our vibration and we're running more energy and we're conduits from universal energy to earth energy, we are helping the shift. So we are going to leave this life basically like we're going to be experts in ascension process. Who knows? We might go on to another planet that needs raising, and we'll know how to do it.
Is that something, maybe a reason why we came here, to learn how to facilitate the ascension?
I have been here since the beginning of humans on the planet. So the whole human experience on Earth has been a project I'm involved with. I think this is it for me, though. The ascension is, I'm done here. But, and it's funny you mentioned that water planet that people have experienced in an NDE. That's what I hear is my shaman and I, my team, we are going to a water planet and helping ascend there next. So maybe those NDEs are people that are seeing, you know what I mean, the next one.
Yeah. Are you excited about that one?
I like swimming.
It would be exciting for me to think about a water planet where you're some kind of a mermaid. I think that's amazing.
Right? I think that would be great. And especially if it's not dense like this, like that would be really nice. I think that would be amazing.
If my viewers wanted to find you, where can they go?
I do have a YouTube channel I just started. It's where I share my drawings and I talk a little bit about the story of each one. And that's just my name. It's at Danielle Oberosler. I just started it. I have 60 subscribers. But I have a website. I mean, I own a tattoo shop, and so it's called the tattooroom.com, the website. And there's a merch page if anyone wants to go and read about the spirit guide art. And also, I've got some downloadable books, but my book is also available on Amazon. And I'll send you the link to that as well.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Do you have any last positive message for the audience?
I I ended my book with basically a message about gratitude. Like, I know a lot of people would have been scared in my situation, but I actually was really grateful for the lesson that I got from dealing with my house, my guest house. And I think that sometimes when times are tough, you have to sometimes just look and try to figure out what the lesson was about it. Why did you have to experience that? Because once you actually learn the lesson, everything gets better after that. You don't need to learn it anymore. And I think that would be a really good thing to do is to find the gratitude for the lessons.
I love that. That's a beautiful message and very positive.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being my guest, Danielle. It was an honor to have you, and I enjoyed this very much.
Thank you so much, Tia, for having me.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.